Welcome, bent riders around the world. My name is Gary Solomon, and you're watching the Laidback Bike Report. Really happy to have you all with us today during the holiday season. We've got a jam-packed show. I pretty much say that every month, and that's why it always runs for 2 hours. We're going to try to see what we can do today to entertain you for as long as it goes. I think we'll be able to do that. Let me tell you a little bit about what we have coming up today, and so you know what you'll be looking for. First of all, we have Charles Coyne, the gentleman who owns the Recumbent Cycle-Con event. We've been trying to get Charles on for a while to divulge to us where the Cycle-Con is going to be held and when next year. And luckily for us, he's decided to be with us today and tell you all that. So we're going to go to Charles here shortly and find out more about that. We also have Doug Davis of the who has made the PAC Tour on a Velomobile just a couple of months ago. And he will be talking to us about that trip and other sorts of ultra racing in a Velomobile. We'll have a discussion around that. And I see we have John Williams back with us. John is going to tell us a little bit about an incident he had with his Quest Velomobile. And a little collision he had. So we're going to talk about that and a couple other things from London with John. We also very happy to have a special guest, Harry Lieben, with us today. Harry is with Center Bikes in the Netherlands, and he's going to talk about a brand new Velomobile called the Hilgo and some of the interesting new features that have gone into that Velomobile. And of course, we've got Brian Ball with us. He'll be at the news desk, and Denny Voorhees at the sports desk. And we're going to have another contest that worked out pretty well last month. We're going to try that again and see if we can keep our live viewers engaged with that and give out an interesting prize. So let's see how that goes. Speaking of the contest, I guess now's a good time to tell you. So as last month, it's going to involve you answering questions about what you see on the Laidback Bike Report today. Our live viewers are going to be watching. So watch the slides that come up, listen to what our guests have to say, and then as we all knew from high school, the quiz will be later. So let's move along a little bit and talk about just a couple of little business things. I want you all to notice the little red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner. Please, if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, click that button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and click the little bell you might see next to the subscribe once you get there, and that'll give you notifications of when we go live and when we've posted videos, so that you'll know. And in the upper right-hand corner, you will see a little letter I, and that stands for information. So click that if you want to find out more. It'll take you to our website, and we'll talk about what's there, but you can find a lot more information about the Laidback Bike Report at our website. Lastly, I want to just encourage those of you that are watching live to join us on live chat. We always have a real interesting discussion, lots of questions and comments from a lot of viewers, and we hope you'll join that and take advantage. We have our panelists available to answer questions and chat with you, and you may hopefully have questions or comments about our guests. That's the place to do it, the live chat. So how do you do that? If you're watching on YouTube, you can just look right over there. You should be able to find the box that says live chat, and you'll see it all happening, and you can just type in below. If you're watching us on Bentrider, Facebook, Twitter, you will see a window with this program going on, but you won't be able to join the live chat unless you move your cursor in the screen. You'll see the little YouTube logo down there. Click the logo. It'll take you to the actual YouTube channel, and there you'll be able to join our chat. So we hope you'll do that, and we'd love to talk to you. Today's show is sponsored by TerraCycle. TerraCycle, makers of exquisite recumbent parts and accessories for your bent, and Trailside.bike, a fine recumbent bike shop on the Withlacoochee Trail in Florida. Folks, at this point, I want to let you know who it is that's helping me on the show today. Our list of panelists continues to grow. Some great guys that are here helping me out. I want to introduce them to you now, briefly at least. From Salzgitter, Germany, we have our webcast director, It's Lars Com. Hello, Lars.
Hi, folks. Good to be here.
Lars even remembered to unmute himself at the very last second. That was exciting. Good work. All right, and let's go to Rochester, New York, where we have the founder and editor of Bentrider and the anchor of our Laidback news desk. It's Bryan Ball.
Hey,
Brian.
That's me. I'm in Rochester.
You are? Yes. Well, we're starting to snow, I understand.
Snowing here, yep.
Yeah, all right.
Pretty,
I guess
pretty significantly.
All right. Well, that's good. There's nothing better than a significant snowfall, except perhaps a significant.
There are lots of things better than significant snowfall.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's move along to Sayre, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We've got our sports desk anchor, Denny Voorhees. Hey, Denny.
How you doing there, guys? Good to be back.
Great to have you with us. And now let's head south to Raymond, Mississippi, where handling our slideshow today, the festive Trey Burgoyne. Hello, Trey. Trey, you're muted. He's festive, but not loud enough.
Howdy. Good to be here.
There you go. Thanks, Trey. All right. And now heading over to Dallas, Texas, it's Mr. Wizard himself, our pal, Doug Davis. Hello, Doug.
Hey, Gary.
Doug is not only on the panel today, but he's actually got a little presentation for you all. So we're glad to have Doug with us. And now out to Colorado Springs, our friend Larry Seidman. Hey, Larry.
Hello.
Glad to have you with us today, bud. All right. Now let's get on with the show, as they say. As I briefly mentioned to you earlier, we have a good friend of the Recumbent Cycle-Con, who not only a friend of the Recumbent Cycle-Con, a guy who owns the Recumbent Cycle-Con, a good friend of our show. It's Charles Coyne. Hello, Charles. Are you there? Charles? There you go. You unmuted yourself. That's right. Charles is in California.
It's still morning here in California, so I'm saying good morning.
Very good. All right, Charles. So you are about to reveal to us at this point something that a lot of people have been asking, I guess both of us about, and that is, where is Recumbent Cycle-Con going to be and when? Because we don't actually know the dates yet either. So many people love to come to that show and see all the vendors, the bikes and the trikes. We do a video of it every year, which is always very popular. So something that's on people's mind is, where is it going to be? So I'm going to throw it over to you, and if you would, let us know. What's the answer?
Well, thanks for this opportunity, Gary, and that's two very good questions. Where and when? And I've been watching too much TV, and I watched the Property Brothers and that sort of thing, where they ask the person they're going to buy 3 different pieces of property, and then they pause and pause and pause, building up the suspense, and then they go to commercial. So now you go to
commercial. So we're going to have Charles on at the end of the show, folks. Let's go ahead and move along. No, I'm just kidding, Charles. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, Gary, I do appreciate the opportunity to make the announcements for the 2018 Recumbent Cycle Convention. The date is October 12th through the 14th, and it will be at the Nashville Fairgrounds in Nashville, Tennessee. After last year's show, we did surveys of our vendors, of our exhibitors, of dealers, and of attendees, and there was kind of not a strong majority, but a lot of people kind of wanted it to move south a little bit this year, so that's what we've done. Nashville Fairgrounds is going to give us an opportunity to have probably our largest outdoor demo riding track, so that's going to be kind of a fun thing. If you want to get more details, you can go instantly to recumbentcyclecon.com, or Facebook, you can Recumbent Cycle-Con. Now, one of the things that we have not locked in, we're contracted for the space, and the show will be there. But one of the things that coincidentally happens to be at the Nashville Fairgrounds is a 1/2 mile paved auto racing oval track. And so we're in discussions about supporting some type of recumbent event race, either recumbent and or Velomobile race, and
in conjunction with the event.
Exactly, yeah. It will not be an extensive race. We're thinking along the lines of like a 3-hour enduro, maybe a 6-hour enduro, something like that. No heats, no brackets. Just run what you brung. Whoever puts on the most miles in 3 hours or 6 hours will be the winner. kind of like F1, bring what you run what you brung, and minimal rules. But all this is predicated on the cost of getting the track and the insurance and all the infrastructure that it takes to put on the event. So still work to be done on that. We'll have an announcement on that in probably 60 days, something like that, if we're able to put that together. But for certain, we will have the 2018 Recumbent Cycle-Con at the Nashville Fairgrounds, Nashville, Tennessee. Lots of great riding around that neck of the woods. If you're going to make it into a little bit of a vacation, there's all kinds of trails and hills and mountains. It's further south than our previous venues, so the weather should be great. Not too much worry about snow down there, unless they have another freak storm like they had last week. So
Charles, that sounds wonderful. Did you tell us the dates? Because I might have just missed that.
I told you the dates: October 12th through the 14th.
October 12th through the 14th.
Friday through the 14th. Friday is the 12th. Saturday is the 13th. Sunday is the 14th. Friday, rather, as always, will be our dealer only day, and then we will have consumers in for the show on Saturday and Sunday.
Charles, that is, I gotta admit, they caught us by surprise.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah,
that was not.
Brian and I were expecting that one. You shocked us on it. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And Nashville's a great venue, I think, and the idea of a race. Don't you think that's something, Brian?
Yeah, as a longtime exhibitor, I'm happy with Nashville. That's fine with me.
And so, Charles,
that's great.
Charles, you mentioned that you were to go to find more information, and of course, as always, folks, you can be directed right to Charles' website and the Recumbent Cycle-Con websites. If you look at the description below the video here, we will put all that information down below, so you can click right on it and go right there. So that is very exciting. Will be a lot more discussion on that, I'm sure. Charles, thank you so much for joining us today and making that big reveal. That was pretty exciting. We appreciate you coming.
Well, Gary, I appreciate the opportunity to make the announcement here on your show, and I appreciate the support that you and Bryan with Bentrider Online have provided the show and Recumbent and Tandem Rider Magazine also. So look forward to seeing you next year, October 12th through the 14th at the Nashville, Tennessee Fairgrounds.
I'm sure we'll both be there.
Yeah, we sure will both be there, and try to keep the booths together again, because we like to, Brian gives me the business, I give him the business, and then
our wives get along.
And yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that is true. So, all right, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot,
Okay,
Charles.
thank you, Gary.
We'll see you soon. Okay,
bye, everybody.
All right, folks, that was pretty interesting. All right, let's move along now to the regular part of our show. We're going to have a presentation, as I mentioned earlier, by one of our panelists, Doug Davis. Doug is a Velomobile rider extraordinaire. If you don't know, he's got a collection of them, and I think that collection may even be increasing. Maybe he'll talk about that. But we want to start out with his PAC Tour. He'll tell you what that is here in a minute. It's a long distance tour in a Velomobile. This is generally not done in a Velomobile. So, Doug, let me go ahead and throw it to you, and we'll go through your presentation and let everybody see what went on. Doug, take it away.
I'm sorry, I was a little distracted. I was sitting here with GPS working out my route to Nashville. He actually, that lands inside of my will ride to it zone. That's what's interesting about it. I was just checking. So it's right at 701 miles as with the first route. So it's probably going to get ridden to. So that'll be
ready to go, aren't you?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm just sitting there going, ooh, I can get there by bike. 6 days, no problem. So now I got to work it out with work to get there. So anyway, so I did a PAC tour, and I kind of had a little presentation together, so we can get the slide up for that. I can talk about it. The first thing is an introduction to what PAC Tour is. PAC Tour is the Pacific Atlantic Crossing Tour. It was started, the cycling tour, excuse me. It was started by Lon Haldeman and Susan Ortangelo. Both Lon and Susan are former RAM alums. Lon is actually one of the co-founders of the Race Across America. So these folks really know their stuff about riding, about racing, about cross country, and it is a paid tour. You can think of it kind of like the MS 150 rides or something like that. They're there to support you, but it is an absolute endurance event. They're not going to support you a lot. They're not going to carry you a whole lot. And working with Lon and Susan, you learn every time I've done PAC Tour. I've learned. This is my third. I was the first guy to ride a recumbent on a PAC Tour, and now I'm the first guy to ride a Velomobile on a PAC Tour. I chose the Southern Transcontinental because I thought that would be a minimally challenging as far as PacTour goes, and we'll get a little talk about that in a second, to see how the Velomobile would perform in these kind of conditions, and of course how I would perform in these kind of conditions. PacTour has a kind of a speed limit. It's a 15-mile-an-hour minimum. If you don't make that, then the hook comes out and pulls you forward, and the hook pulls you forward too many times. They might ask you to go find something else to do rather than finish the PacTour because you're taking up too much time from the other riders. So they're pretty strict about that, although they'll do everything they can for you. So it's good. And the most important part about PacTour that you have to keep in mind, if there is a small, flat, simple route from point A to point B, that won't be what you're using. Lon takes great pride in finding the hardest possible, longest climbs to get you from one spot to another. Next slide, please. And when I started out this ride, I had my personal stats to give you the idea of how much you've got to work to get into this thing where you feel like you're at least capable of surviving it. When I started the ride, I had a little over 9,000 miles, 15,000 kilometers before I started. That's just this year. So from January 1 to the time I started PacTour, I had already accumulated about 9,300 miles. My largest ride in that was 302 miles. I went after that in Texas, going to Houston just to see how I can do it. And I weighed about 228 pounds with a 14% BMI. I ended up, and we'll talk about what happened during the PacTour. I ended up having some health issues, not necessarily because of the PacTour, but because of my own body. And I got the opportunity to ride two different bikes. So I rode two different Velomobiles there. The first half of the tour, I rode the Quattro Velo, which everybody knows is the four-wheeled Velo, two-wheel drive, four-wheel Velo. It's about 70 pounds-ish. It has a pretty heavy bike, but it climbs fantastic. Particularly on steep hills. And the first day of the PacTour was nothing but steep hills. And so I decided I wanted to ride that. It also descends incredibly fast. But I ended up breaking it along the way, and we'll talk about that in a second, and getting a field repair, and the field repair didn't look so good, so I changed bikes and rode the DF XL for the rest of it. Next slide, please. Give you an idea on the ride. I did not ride the whole 2,000 plus miles. I rode on the meter a little over 1,800 miles. It's about 3,000 km. I had an on the meter elevation gain of 58,000 feet as opposed to 100,000, so a little more than half. My average speed of riding was 17.3. The recorded steepest uphill was 28%, and I took a lot of lunch of the bump. So this is 100 meter or longer uphill. So that's what I did. Anything 300 feet or 100 meter was below that was taken out. So there's a 28% grade there. The steepest downhill was 22%, same rules. The fastest I got going, everybody wants to know this one, I managed to top out at 102 miles an hour. It's 164 km downhill. A little bit about that. I was coming into a city called Wickenburg. We were coming off the mountains of the Continental Divide. It was absolutely beautiful asphalt. There was no cars, and I was in the Quattro Velo, and I decided just to see how fast it would go. I figured that one of two things would happen: either it would reach terminal velocity, or I would chicken out and I'd start using the brakes. And so I let it go. I'd actually, funny thing was I stopped looking at the speedometer because it was down lower in the shell. And I just let it go, and I said, well, I'll just stop when I felt like it was out of control or that I was bouncing too much. And it never once felt like it was out of control. That bike is like riding on rails. It's just it's an amazing machine. I can't say enough good things about how well it handles. And I literally beat it to the tar out of it during this ride, and it stood through all of that just well. The rest of the stats are there. The other thing there is I had collected data from all the other PacTour riders, and the average tour speed for everybody, including the diamond frame bikes, was 17.9. So they were a little bit faster than me on the Velomobile. Part of that was the climbs that got me the first couple of days. I had 14 flat tires, and 13 of them were Shreddas, 8 of which were in California, and 1 flat tire on the DFXL. And I hit something, and I mean, I saw it It was just some piece of metal on the road, and I knew I was going to hit it. There was nothing I could do except hit traffic or hit the thing, hit the metal, and it tore out the bottom. Literally tore the tire off the rim. It hit it so hard. I have a little blurb about the worst state we drove through, the worst roads we found were in California, the worst traffic, California, the worst police, California, and the most flats were in California, for me at least. I have a police stop story I'll tell you right quick in California that was really interesting. We were headed up Mount Laguna. I had been climbing for about 2.5 hours. It was a miserable climb. It was hot and it was windy. And I'd gotten to a place where it flattened out, and I took off and was enjoying the Velomobile, enjoying the ride. And we went kind of in a downhill, maybe a 2-3% grade downhill, and I had let it speed back up. And I was following along this minivan at about 50 miles an hour and just hauling through there and just really enjoying it. And we went through this light at the bottom of the hill. It was green. We didn't run the light. But there was a police officer sitting there at the light, obviously looking for speeders or looking for people running the light or something. But he took off after us. He jumped out of that car, after he pulled me over, because I looked up and there's flashing lights behind me, and I'm thinking, oh, great. This would already be the second. This would be actually the third one in California already. This was number 3. He gets out of that car and jumps out and runs up to me and says, "You can't ride that here." And I'm like, well, why not? And, he says, well, we don't allow motorized vehicles like that without a license. And I said, well, it's not got a motor. Well, it does, but there's not an electric motor. So we spend, to make a long story short so we don't run out of time, I spent 45 minutes there with this guy, taking everything out of the bike to prove that there wasn't an electric motor in it, because he was just not having any of it. He said, there's no way you're pedaling it that fast. And I said, well, I'm not pedaling that fast. I'm going downhill. And, of course, after a few minutes of this, I started getting to be too much of a smart aleck. He asked me, where are you going? And I said, Georgia. And that didn't go over so well. So we get all the stuff out of the bike. He looks everything up. We pick the shell up. He finally decides there's no motor in it. He's gone back and forth to his car, I don't know, 3 or 4 times at this point. Finally, the last time he comes out of the car, he comes out with this big grin on his face, and he runs up to me and he says, "You don't have a bell." And I'm thinking, what? He said, "You don't have a bell." I said, "Yeah, I got a bell." He says, "No, you don't." And I reach in there. There's a little string. As Velomobile guys all know, we have these little bells that are down mounted by the footwells, and there's a string you pull on them, and it goes ding ding. So I reached in there and pulled my string, and it would ding ding, and it looked like I'd thrown cold water on this guy. So he had he had given up at that point. He just turned around and he said, "Okay, have a nice day." He walks back in the car. I'm sitting there with all the stuff in the Velomobile strung out all over the street. I finally pack it all back up. So I've been there maybe now an hour. I get riding and I'm going along, and to add insult to injury, about that time Susan calls because she's worried about me. And she called, "Where are you?" And I said, "Well, I've just been stopped by the police. I'm on the way now." She said, "Well, how far? Where are you?" So we go through this. She said, "Well, you need to hurry up because you're too slow." I said, "Well, you got to talk to California's finest because they keep pulling me over." And she says, "Well, you need to get to the next rest stop. Don't stop. They're going to hand you water and go on." So I pedal on there. I'm pushing real hard. I make the turn. I go under this little bridge, make a left to hit it up to the rest stop. I can see the guy sitting there at the rest stop. He can see me. He's 1/4 mile, maybe half mile up the road, and right behind me is another cop. And he's got his lights on, pulls me over.
Yeah, so about now is when it's time for you to be leaving California.
And so that one was a little bit better. He got out of the car and he walks over. He says, "Are you pedaling that thing?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, we'd gotten some calls. Thank you." And turns around, gets back in, and drives off. Well, I go on up to the place where the stop is, and the guy was there. He looks at me, he says, "Well, I knew you said you were stopped by cops, but if I hadn't seen that, I wouldn't have believed it." And I said, "It's been this way all day." So we ride all the way to the rest of the way up to Mount Laguna. Didn't get stopped any time until I got all the way up into Julian, and then in Julian, I'm coming through coming off the mountain and in toward the town, and a police car comes up behind me, and he pulls up next to me while we're riding. Now we're doing about 40 miles an hour going down this little stretch. He pulls up next to me and he rolls down his window, and there's two of them in the car. And the guy says, "Are you is that a bicycle?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "Okay, follow us. We're going to stop traffic for you at the next intersection because it's really bad." And that's exactly what they did. They roared up ahead of me. They got in front of the traffic, turned on their lights. Everybody stopped, and I went through the intersection.
Oh,
So,
see, now there's finally
finally
nice
one good
police
one.
story. All right, let's move along with the slides if we can.
Yeah, sure.
While we're
Sorry.
going back to the slides, I love those stories. And folks, for those of you who have not seen our show about getting stopped on a recumbent bike and mostly velomobiles, we have that show a number of months back. You might want to check back and see that. It's not something that's that rare. Happens all the time. And Doug will be the first to tell you.
It's called being stopped by riding something. What was it I said? It's being pulled over for riding something unusual.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what it is. What the ticket's for, right here, writing something unusual.
All right, let's go back to the slide, Lars, and let's
a couple other things. The best roads we found were in Alabama. God, they were nice. The best traffic, I made a joke, and it seemed to be a truism as we finished the tour, is that the best traffic tended to be in the red states in general. Had the best police were in Mississippi. They were just fantastic. They saw our riders. They knew what to do. They were helping us out. The hottest state was Arizona. I had 128 on the meter. Lots of dogs, and of course, if you're in a velomobile, you're basically dog proof, which is fairly nice. In fact, there was one time where a dog was chasing one of our riders, and I just pointed the velomobile at it and encouraged the dog by contact with his body to move away, and he did. So the traffic was interesting. Go ahead to the next slide right quick. This was our route. I'm not going to spend much time on it. You guys can see that, but basically it's a southern crossing. Go ahead, next slide. We talked about the police encounters. We had a broken bike bits. I broke somehow, somewhere, and I'm not sure where, between Blythe and El Centro, California, I broke part of the Quattrovelo. And part of it was the road was just ridiculously bad. It was cobblestones. I was in a foul mood because I'd just replaced, I don't know, 2 or 3 flat tires that day. And so I just decided to slam the bike through the road. I didn't care anymore. You kind of get into these tunnel vision things on these kind of rides. And so I was slamming through this ride, and it's 20 plus miles an hour over cobblestones. And it was really, really, really tough. And there's a couple of videos I've got, and you can see the front end of the bike bouncing everywhere. And so when I got to the hotel that night, I looked at the bike, and it was kind of sitting a little tilted, and I figured, oh great, I bent something. So I opened up the shell and looked around, and in the back there's this little thing that holds the axle, and I had snapped it. It had a pretty good gap on where one of the welds was. So being a good randonneer I am, I had every welding shop, tool and die shop, and everything else already looked up. So I called the guy, started calling around, found a guy that could weld it, told him my story, begged him for mercy. Got a local Uber variant to take me over to his welding shop, handed him the part, and he welded it back together for me, and got it back to me that night. Anyway, let's see the road issues we'll talk about in a second. The QV is an interesting machine in one other way. You can't tell you have a flat tire, particularly in the rear. A lot of the QV riders now are gone to tire pressure monitoring systems because of this. And I know it's really strange for a lot of you guys that ride recumbent bikes because you can always feel them pull. The QV is a 2-wheel drive system with a differential, and the front is kind of in a think of it like a pyramid shape. It's really stable. So you lose a back tire, you don't even know it. And that happened to me several times where I would lose a back tire, I wouldn't know it. You'd be going up these little bitty grades, and you'd be pushing, and you just, again, you're in that mindset where you're just trying to get to the other side, and you don't realize you got a flat. And when you finally wear yourself out and you get out of the bike and look and find you get a flat tire, you feel kind of stupid. But then you put the tire back in, all of a sudden your speed goes back up. I think I had, and I ended up having some health issues as we got into the altitude. Part of it was the fatigue of that. There were several times, and of course you don't know when the flat tire really went. But looking at my power meter numbers, there were times where I drug a flat tire 40 miles and didn't know it. just because you got into that kind of tunnel vision, just want to get up the hill, don't care, just push real hard, and you can't like stick your head out and look to see if you have a flat. You actually got to get out of the bike and look. So, and you know, none of those other folks really, you know, the other riders that rode there really don't know what to look for. And a couple of them could see it at times, and I'd get hollered at, but a lot of times, you know, you just didn't know. I do have a disease called myelodysplastic syndrome, or MDS, which means my hemoglobin counts are always low, which means when you get into the situation where you're fatigued, it's really, really deliberate. I can't even say it today. It's bad for you. And
and altitude, right? I mean,
and altitude,
and exerting yourself.
And altitude and exerting myself. So when I got into Roswell, I had my blood tested there, and they basically said, look, you need to get off the bike for a while, and we're going to put you into transfusion. We're going to give you some red blood and a bunch of other things. You're going to be here for a couple of days. And I said, no, if you're going to do all that, I'm going to go home and get it done where I'm used to it. And so I went back home, took a few days off the PAC Tour, had a marrow biopsy done because they were afraid I'd been killing myself or something crazy out there. That took me off the bike for a few days, and so my doctor and I are talking. They've got the results of marrow biopsy. Everything's fine. There's nothing any worse than it always is. And I said, well, so doctor, when can I get back on the bike? And the doctor says, well, you know, this is a pretty big wound. We normally tell people to wait a couple, 3 weeks before they do anything strenuous with these wounds. And I said, so how about a week? And the doctor says, well, yeah, a week if it's okay. So 3 days later, I was back on the PAC Tour.
Always listening to medical advice.
Exactly. Next slide. So this is the problem we had, or I had in particular with this, is rumble strips. So we have this wonderful country that has decided that we all need rumble strips to wake up drivers that are sleeping or what have you. On an upright bike, you can get past this. You can ride down that right-hand side. A lot of the tour riders did that. Velomobile, not so much. So I tried riding like the second picture there in the middle. That's unnerving. I really did. That was no fun at all. And you're riding like this the whole time and trying to stay in with that thing down the middle of the Velomobile, and you get bounced and what have you. That may also been where I broke the frame. So I'm not sure which one it was. I gave up, just rode the traffic. After that, I said, screw this, I'm going to ride that. These are all pictures from this. You know, we had all sorts of rumble strips. A lot of them were like this strip on the left, but a lot of them were like that picture. And these things are not small. These things are freaking deep. I mean, shoot, they look like little, moon craters when you're riding over them.
Doug, if I can interrupt for just a second,
yes,
a couple of comments here that are pertinent. Robert Johnson said, I would have had a decal for the left side of the Velo made that says, "Officer, this is a bicycle. I'm pedaling." I don't think we've seen your. I don't know. Have we seen it yet? We haven't seen it. Robert, hang on. You're going to see a picture of.
Yeah, I have a sticker that says 100% human power.
He's got it all already, pretty much. You'll see that.
But
we also have Salky, who also has I follow his YouTube channel. He has a great YouTube channel, and he says we also have those rumble strips here in Finland. Very annoying. And yes, Salky rides Velomobile as well. So go ahead, Doug. All
right, let's go to the next slide right quick. Try to keep you going here. This is a picture of all the crazies that did this ride with me. We did the Velomobile's hiding in the back. You can't see it all that well, but this is the group. Go ahead to the next slide. Give you an idea what PAC Tour is like. This is day one. This is an actual picture of my results on day one. Almost every day is going to be like this on a PAC Tour. And for guys like me, that's what we look for. I mean, this is what we. But if you want to look at this, 1 mile of climbing. I mean, that's the vertical height, the elevation. It's actually more than 1 mile of climbing. The 1 mile elevation occurs at about 52 miles. So roughly before lunch, you've done the majority of your climbing. They almost always put lunch around mile 70. So, just after you've gone over the biggest hill, that's when you're going to get your lunch. So you got to work your way up. We always call it working for lunch. I'd probably say maybe 90% of the days were like that. There were a few days that were all downhill, and those were kind of the rest days, but most of them looked, most of the day you spent the first half of the day looking exactly like that picture there on the left. You just saw, a vertical climb, and you just went up. The once you got up, there's always good views. They take some beautiful routes. There's lots of pictures on my Facebook page of where we were. And there's, of course, there's the official ones on the PAC Tour page of all the stuff we did. But you're going to, you know, sitting in a Velomobile, that picture on the left is exactly what you see the whole time.
Next one, Trey.
Go ahead, next slide. You also saw, this is the bike areas that we were on, you saw a lot of ghost bikes, and I thought that was really interesting. So the path that they took was also used for the TransCon ride, that's also been used for several of the American cyclist rides and others. So you do see a lot of bikes, ghost bikes along the way. It's a little disheartening to see them there. But it's interesting though that you do see that people have actually gone out there and put these up. So I thought that was interesting. I tried to take pictures of them and see something there. The other thing you saw, which I had to make jokes about a lot on social media, is you saw these border checkpoints, certainly through Arizona and Mexico and California. And, you know, I think we went 5 or 6 of these things easily along the routes, and they were all the same thing. You drive up, they'd look at you and they'd do. So I borrowed that little picture from Family Guy, which was, they were just checking your skin color to let you go through there. Some other pictures from the ride, saw lots of elevation sides, lots of wildlife sides, lots of other things there. You know, scenery, and a lot of nothing, particularly in California. Saw a whole lot of nothing.
Doug, let me stop you one more time real quickly. So Dam Runner wants to know, what was your average climbing speed in the QV? How fast were you going up those hills?
So I guess it depends on how the grade was. You know, on day one up the Laguna, we had an average 6% grade over the whole course of the 52 miles, and I was getting an average of about 7 miles in some spots and 6 in the other. I think the Garmin said 6.2. So not bad, but that's, you know, not what I would get on an upright bike that weighed nothing.
Sure.
So,
and were there any other bents on the ride at all?
No, unfortunately, there wasn't any bents on this ride. Bents are pretty rare on PacTour because of the climbs. So when I talked to Lon about it, he said they usually get 1 bent a year on a PacTour. On average. So, and PacTour does a lot of stuff, not just the Southern TransCon. They'll have 1 or 2 crossings a year. They have a lot of camps that they do. They have a lot of other things they do. And recumbents are fairly rare on there because they are a pretty climb heavy route.
Sure. And also from the Netherlands, Marco Ropers is on, why can't the rumble strips be avoided by riding left of it? I think you answered that. You do. Yeah. That's what you have to. You have to ride in the lane. So
you have to ride in the lane. So in some places that was good, in some places that was bad. There were, so I'll give you my Mississippi story right quick. So in Mississippi, I was going down this 2-lane road. This is a long 2-lane road. It's literally going to be on this thing all day long. We're not even going to make a single turn. And it's lots of hills. They're, you know, maybe 2, 3, 4 mile climbs, followed by 2, 3, 4 mile descents, followed by 2, 3, 4 mile climbs. So there's one time I'm on this. I gone through this little town. I get on this climb, and the traffic coming the other direction is just flying by. There's no way to do anything. The rumble strip's got about 6 inches to the right of it, so I'm in the traffic, and I'm stacking cars. And usually when you stack cars, at least I'm trying to be polite. As soon as I can find, you know, if I've stacked them enough, if I got 4 or 5 cars behind me, I'll try to find a place to get past and wave them by. There's nothing. There's nothing on this road at all to pull over. I am looking and looking and looking, nothing. And I am 6 miles an hour, just with the rule. And there's this guy in this this large 18-wheeler kind of thing behind me. He's actually what I call a half 18-wheeler, just a 14-wheeler, just a big commercial truck. And he is behind me, and he's riding along behind me. And I'm just, you know, I'm thinking, oh man, this sucks for me. It sucks for this poor guy. I finally get to the top of this thing and pull over into this little Exxon station. And this guy, you know, and I pull over and think, oh, thank God I get to release the cars. Everybody's going to be pissed. And so I pull over, and this guy pulls in behind me, and I'm thinking, oh shit, you know, the fight's on now. So this guy comes running up the, you know, he gets behind me. He parks maybe 10 feet behind me. And I'm sitting here, I'm dying, I'm sweaty, and I'm nasty. I've drank half my Camelback. And he gets out, and he comes walking up to me, and I'm thinking, oh my God, the fight's on. And he looks at me, and he looks at the bike, he looks at me, and he goes, are you pedaling that thing? And I said, yes. He said, that is the coolest thing I have ever seen. Hang on a second. He runs back to his truck, grabs this liter of cold water, runs back over. Here, you're going to need that because that was a hard climb. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the twilight zone. And
That is so nice.
All
That
these
is so nice.
Yeah, all these cars have gone by, and there must have been 40 cars behind me at this point. And
I think you're making Trey's day here, Doug, because that's a couple of nice Mississippi stories.
Oh yeah, no, it was great. I mean, and the guy was just we chatted for a while. He took pictures of me and what have you. And now we're Facebook friends.
That's awesome. Let's move back to the slides if we can. Let's I think we need about 5 more minutes here, Doug, and we're gonna have to move along here. So let's gonna wrap it up here.
Yeah, we got a couple more slides. Go ahead to the next one right quick. We saw a lot of this 13% plus grades going uphill, and then we saw a lot of those downhills too, the same way. I did switch to the DF on the other second half of the ride. If you go back one slide, go forward one from there. Next one from there. That's us repairing the DF after I broke the front derailleur off the front of it going up a hill. So I tore the front derailleur clean off the bike. It was quite a disaster. It took about 7 hours for us to fix this thing. But that wasn't because of the bike. It was because I was going down a hill real fast. When I hit the other hill, I kept it at load and I should have downshifted, but sometimes you just don't. Next slide. So that's kind of the end. That's kind of a picture there. Go ahead, one more. And
is that the slide? Here we go. Yeah, we want to talk about this for a couple of minutes at least. Let's talk about this.
So what are we going to do? I've already signed up for PAC Tour next year, so I'm going to do some more PAC Tour. I didn't feel like I performed as well as I should have. I learned a lot about the health issues and have had a couple of consults with some research doctors in my disease. So we've got a new plan. So we're going to do that. There is a race across China that keeps getting into my radar. I want to do that one really badly. They had it last year. They did not get their permits, so they're trying to get in this year. So if they can do that, I'm going to be on it.
And let folks know, Doug, that you do spend a fair amount of time in China. This is not something new just to go over there and do that. You do spend some time.
Well, I would go over there and do that anyway. But yeah, this is something I spend time over there. I love riding over there. We can have a whole Laidback Bike Report on riding riding in China someday because it's a blast. And it's like riding recumbents back in the 1980s when I first started. Nobody's seen them. They're all interested in them. They're happy to see you on the road. And so it's fun. There's a Silk Road race that's being formed, which is going to go from France to Guangzhou, following the Silk Road. I've been watching that one. We'll see if it happens. I had planned on the Transcon race this year. I'm still kind of half planning on it, but it's probably not going to have some work changes that are going to make that one kind of hard to do. There's conversations going on about a Velomobile team for the race across America with a couple of us. We're still working through that. Probably, if that doesn't go, I'll probably take a shot at it in 19 or 20. And then more long distance riding in general, 12 to 14K years is my goal. I'm at 12 right now. Probably get another 1,000 or so, maybe if I'm lucky at the end of the year. I thought I wasn't going to be able to, but things have changed with a family situation that's going to let me get more riding. So I'll probably get, I'm going to guess I'm going to get 13 this year, right on the nose. So
that is amazing. Now, back to RAM for a second. Do you know if anyone has ever done RAM in a Velomobile before?
Not that I'm aware of. And one of the things that was wonderful about PacTour is I must have spent in 4 to 5 hours talking to Lon about RAM strategy. And that was just, I mean, that's part of the reason I want to go back and talk to him more, because he gave me so much information. He had some great ideas, and he gave me a plan that I want to work on how Velomobiles could really succeed in the RAM. So I really am looking forward to talking to him some more about that, some of the stuff we've, I've been thinking about, but also some of the stuff I've done since PAC Tour to kind of test some of the theories that he had thought of and we had discussed. So
yeah, this is breaking new ground. And on Bentrider on the Velomobile forum, I've been reading over the last couple of days. There are a couple of guys that have done ultra racing on Velomobiles. I think they were at Sebring last year, perhaps, and seen some talk about RAM. So it's going to be very interesting to follow in the next couple of years and see what develops. That's what it sounds like. And you're the guy to be on the tip of the spear.
I don't know about that, but I'll certainly do my best part to be involved in it.
Doug, thank you so much for sharing all that information. Tell me, tell all of us, how can people follow you and find out more about what you do with racing velomobiles and acquiring them?
Okay, well, on Facebook, there's a Facebook Dallas Cyclist is my racing touring page. So I don't put anything on there other than stuff about racing and touring velomobiles and how to follow that. So I try to keep it as clean for that as I can. YouTube video of YouTube/Dallas Cyclist has lots of videos of stuff that I'm doing. You're certainly again try to keep that as clean as possible and just as simple as possible. I don't put much on either one of them that isn't very specific to that. So hopefully it's not too noisy.
We will put all that information into the description of the video so people will be able to find you. Denny has messaged me real quickly here to say that he does, and Denny knows a lot about RAM, that there have been a couple of streamliners, right? Yeah.
Not velomobiles, but streamliners.
Yeah. But that's a nice clarification. So thank you, Denny, for that one. And I'm going to thank you again, Doug, for that wonderful presentation, folks. That's Doug Davis. Thanks a lot. All right, folks, let's move along. Now we're going to see if we can throw it out to, we're going to head over to London, England. That's where we're going. And go ahead and unmute yourself. Yes, it's going to be John Williams. John, hello.
Here's Johnny.
That's right. That's
Hi, Gary.
I wish I had some music to back us up on that. So it's very nice to have you. Thank you. Bryan Ball. That was very nice. That sounded like a real trumpet for a second there. John, so if you could, let's get into your slideshow and talk a little bit about a couple of things. First, let's talk about your history. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, and biking in general, how that started for you?
Oh, right, yeah. Well, it's got to be 15, 20 years ago. I was whizzing around in an Italian motor scooter and had a little bit of an accident and fractured, I think it was the L5 vertebrae. And that's what got me into recumbents. So I bought a Challenge Hurricane, I think it was my first bike. And I use that all the time. Done quite a few tours in the UK in that. Always had my eye on a Velomobile, and I thought, well, one day I'll get one. And then I saw a second-hand WOW on Fiets.be in Belgium, in Ghent, on their website. And so I found out that Brecht was doing a Velomobile open day in London. And he was bringing 6 different models over to Bike Fix in Holborn. And it was advertised you could just turn up, try, and order if you wanted one. So it was a really good opportunity for people in London to actually sit in a Velomobile, have a pedal around. And he said, oh, John, I can actually bring your WOW over with the rest of the bikes instead of you coming over to pick it up. And he kindly brought it over for me on the back of his Volkswagen Transporter. And that's how it all started.
Very good. Let's go to the next slide. Or actually, so is that the WOW that we're looking at?
Yeah, that's the WOW. It had a vinyl wrap on it, which I'd peeled off because I was planning on painting it. And that was when I cycled down to Bilbao, and that's in the south of France. And it was really, really hot over there. I think I had a little temperature gauge thermometer on, and up the hills in Normandy, because Normandy's like really hilly, it was hitting 49 on the gauge. So yeah, very hot up the hills. And then once it leveled out,
he's not talking Fahrenheit there for our American. Go ahead, John. Yeah. Go to the next slide, please.
Okay, and that's when we first hit Caen in Normandy. Just got off the ferry there, and we're riding. I think the ferry comes in at I think it's Gold Beach or Omaha Beach for the D-Day landings. That's where the ferry drops you off. And then you ride over Pegasus Bridge. Actually, that's when I first met my girlfriend. And
I think we have her on the slide too. Can we go to the... There we go.
Yes, there she is, just behind Stuart. And that's how I decided whether she was a keeper or not. I bought her
yeah, tell us about that. What was this contest about? What was this test about?
Well, I bought her a 2-wheeled Fujin SL, which isn't like, you know, a nice high tool recumbent to learn on, so it's quite tricky if you've never ridden one before, and she'd never ridden a recumbent, and she had 3 days to get used to the recumbent before we rode to Madrid from London. And yeah, she did it no problem, and we were riding, the guys were riding to Morocco, and we decided we'd just ride the first part to Madrid and then let them carry on. So it was 100 miles a day every day, and then she'd never really sort of been on a tour before, only ridden to work on a Brompton in London.
How did it all work out, though, John?
Absolutely perfect. Yep, and yeah, still together. The bike's gone, but we're still together.
And
that's the off. Yeah, that's when we were setting off actually from London on the day, which was a nice sunny day. It rained a lot in France after that, and but yeah, it was great. We wild camped most of the way. Most of the campsites were closed anyway, so you could stay there tonight, and there wasn't anybody there at all, no owners or anything. So yeah, it was great. And this is on the River Lee when I think it's maybe 19 months ago. We were living on a narrow boat, and that was my parking space for the Velomobile. So I had to be careful of low bridges. So if ever we were cruising along and there was a low bridge, I'd have to take the bike off.
And so every time you wanted to ride, you had to take it down from there and then put it back up.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
All right, and you can see that little ads, that little thing you're at here. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, but let's leave the ad. We'll get back to that, but that's the story there. Okay, next one.
Yeah, this is I think about three to 4 weeks ago. I decided to take my mate, who'd never really ridden a Velomobile before, over for a ride to the Netherlands, and for the open day at the Intercity Bikes. And he's a total Velomobile skeptic, and after the trip he was wondering how he could find 8,000 euros to buy a DF, so I think it worked well.
Yeah, and this is also, these two pictures that we just looked at are also kind of important, because you might consider that on the left there you see your blue Quest. Yep. You might consider this to be the before picture, because we are about to get into the after picture, I think. Is this the next one? Yeah, yes. What the hell happened here? Tell us what happened.
Well, this is what happens when you riding to the side of a car at 25 miles an hour, feet first. I think that corner on the front of the Quest is where it hit the right front wing of the car and the right front wheel of the car there. Yeah, it was quite a big impact actually, and
tell us what happened before. Yeah, hang on to that slide if you would, Trey. Tell us what happened to you, John. How did you come out of this?
Yeah, both ankles took the brunt of it, I think, and so I ended up with 2 badly sprained ankles and just sort of soft tissue damage, and I think the ligaments are a bit mangled. At the moment, they feel fine. It's only if I sort of sit down cross-legged on the floor or something at a weird angle, and then I get the pain, or if I ride my Brompton to work.
Yeah. How long ago was this now? It's a little over a week?
Yeah, it's about nearly 2 weeks, I think.
Okay, almost 2 weeks. So yeah, so you're still suffering a bit from it, but obviously it could have been much worse. Let's go on to the next one, Trey.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, the top half of the Quest at the front there is twisted as well, which isn't good.
Yep. Next one, please.
Another thing I was thinking about today, because my little finger on the left is still quite sore above the knuckle, and I think I caught both of my little fingers and the top of my right hand on the cockpit edge. So because it has the tiller steering, your hands are up like this. So as I ploughed into the side of the car, the tiller and my body got thrown forward. So
right, and the outside of your hands would have been those pinkies.
Yeah,
would have,
I've still got the scars on here and whatnot. And then I think that left finger, I was actually thinking it might be fractured or something, because it's still really tender to the touch.
Well, go ahead. Could we, Lars, could we take a look at John for a second there? I mean, might as well see the gory details. Go ahead and show. We weren't looking at you, John.
We've got like a little, if you can see it. Where is it? Oh, it's only, I had quite a big cut here, which is sort of healed up now. And on this left one here, I've still got this weird lump.
Okay.
Which is, if I even just touch it lightly, it's like super sore.
A couple of weeks later. Okay. Let's go back to the slides if we could, please, Lars. And so now this is the inside, I believe, right, of the nose of the Velo?
Yeah, on the front boom there, just at the top to the right, the metal's twisted around a bit. And that took the brunt as well. And then you've got these 2 circular cracks to the left of in the nose and on the right. And that's where the body was pushed in quite a lot. But the car didn't sort of come into the cockpit area, which I'm really impressed with. And I'm quite curious as to what would have happened if I would have been in the WOW, because the WOW is just carbon fiber on the front.
Yes, or in a regular recumbent or an upright bicycle. Yeah. Let's face it. I think it's pretty
and
clear.
The WOW doesn't have this metal frame around the front edge there either.
So you wouldn't have had that protection.
No, I think it would have come in a lot more.
Next slide, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so yeah, just to finish up then on the accident. So back up one, if you would, Trey. I'm sorry, because I want John to tell us what the disposition. So what's happened? We've seen what happened, and you're healing up at least. Okay. What's going to happen with the results of the collision, the insurance, and all that? Tell us what's happening with the.
Okay.
Accident.
So. I was amazed at how fast the guy's insurance company sort of worked and progressed everything. They contacted me 5 days after the accident and said, we'd like to make you an offer, which I was really surprised about. I thought it was going to take weeks. And so they made me an offer, and it was a really good offer. It wasn't enough to replace the Velomobile, but it wasn't that far off. So I accepted the offer, and and they let me keep the Quest. They didn't even ask for it back or anything. So I don't think they knew what to do with it, because their first line when I had the accident was, Mr. Williams, nice to speak to you. We've been looking at the pictures you've sent us of your human-powered vehicle, and we've never seen anything like it. And
what the heck is that? Yeah.
And they were like, it's absolutely stunning. I said, yeah, that's the problem. They are quite rare, so maybe your guys should have hit something a bit more generic.
So what's your plan, John? With the money and with the trashed Quest as it is now? What are you going to do?
Yeah, so I'm thinking of getting the famous Lee Wakefield to give it the once over, and I'd rather give him the money and get him to fix her up and make her look pretty again, and I'll keep the Quest. Yeah. That's the plan. Okay. And then I'm still planning on getting either a Quattro in a couple of years' time. But for now, I'm going to get Questy back on the road. I think she deserves it.
Right. And we never said that. That's you call your Velomobile, it's Quest. You call it Questy, which is an endearing term. I really like that. So, John, let's finish up. Let's go to the next slide, please. We'll just take a couple of minutes. We don't have a whole lot of time, but I do want to let people know about your business that you have started called Velo-ads. Tell us what Velo-ads is about. We have a few slides here, and tell us what this is about.
Oh, cool. So, we decided, seeing as I'm into Velomobiles, and I've got a couple of them, to start an advertising company, advertising on Velomobiles. And seeing as we're in London, I thought it'd be the best place to do it. And so I've had this idea for years, but I've never implemented it. And then my girlfriend's been giving me a kick up the butt and telling me to get on with it. And she's been doing loads of the work as well. And she decided that the best way forward was to approach companies, but to Photoshop their brand on the Velomobile and then send them the picture and say, like, this is what your brand would look like on one of our machines. And the first company we approached with that method, they snapped it up and were like, oh, awesome. Yeah, we'd love to have you riding around with our company on your bikes. And they were called Rude Health. And they sell like alternatives to dairy produce and stuff.
Yes, good on it, Ted. We do have a shot. I think it's maybe one of the last ones. We'll get to that one. Oh, that one has it on too. Okay, Rude Health. Okay.
So we went with the vinyl wrap idea at first. Then we realized that that's like just too much hassle.
Trey, go on a couple slides here. You can see John gave us a couple slides about what. There we go. John, next 2 or 3 slides.
Yeah,
tell us about the
vinyl wrap. Too much hassle to take off. It takes a couple of days, and you've got to use heat to take it off, and it messes with the paint. So we came up with the idea of using a lycra material, and we'd do a wrap with that. So my girlfriend studied fashion, and so she built the templates for the Quest, for the WOW. So if anybody wants a template made for them, there you are. And then we just fasten it with Velcro, and we get the image digitally printed onto the fabric, and that's in the sort of testing phase at the moment. So we're going to ride around and make sure that they don't fall off in downpours or anything like that. And then we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's a good idea if you're going to get the advertising on there to keep it with you when you ride. And exactly. There is Rude Health, right? So this is when you
this was the first campaign. They did a Rude Health week. So there was like a wild swim in the Serpentine at Hyde Park. There was all sorts going on, and they wanted a 3-meter banner in the bike, which I thought, wow, how are we going to do that? So I had to use a scaffolding mount, which usually goes on the pavement, and you stick the scaffolding pole inside and build your tower up. So I screwed that into the floor of the Quest, and then I cut a little slot in the cockpit edge to put a zip tie in there around the pole for the flag, and that worked quite well until the winds sort of built up, and then I was tacking.
That keeps you going, at least. That's
So that was good fun.
That is definitely an attention getter, no doubt about that. What next slide, please? Okay,
yeah.
Real quickly, just give me your elevator story here of what happened on this track.
Yeah, I've been trying to get my son in my other Velomobile for a long time, and he's basically a skateboarder and too cool for cycling. So I sent him a photo and said, look, the bike's nice and shiny and it's really cool. Jump in. So he jumped in, and we went off to the Olympic Park to do some training around the track, which I've done many a time. And I've raced there, and they have a open day on the week where you can ride anything. And we went there as usual, £4, turn up and ride. And the guy was like, you're not allowed to take those things on the track. Sorry, they're too fast. I was like, well, I've been here 15 times, never had a problem. And he said, yep, they're basically banned due to our insurance. And that was the end of Velomobiles riding around the road circuit at the Olympic Park. There was no real explanation. I see that he's lost his job. That's the latest I've heard. Yeah, he was the manager, and he seems to have been fired. So hopefully I'll try and get back there. Which is
John actually has at least a couple of videos of him on that track, right, John? I think I've seen you on there. So that's kind of a shocker. Okay, next slide, please. I think we're just about there. So, that's your closing slide. John, any closing message for us all?
Yeah, just check out Velo-ads. Yeah, we're sort of like trying to promote Velomobiles as best we can, and we have the YouTube channel now, which is really good fun. I enjoy doing it, and it's been great being on the show. And one day I might pop on again. You never know.
Well, you just might. I would love to have you back on, John. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to, of course, put the information about Velo-ads, your YouTube channel, and everything else. If you want to send me in the message anything else you want to be followed on, let me know, and we will put that, of course, in the description below, like I always say, so you folks will be able to follow John. And I recommend you watch his channel. The quality of the videos are amazing. The production qualities and stuff are fantastic. I watched the one about you crashing your Quest, and it was a sad story, but the quality was really good, and the music was cool. It was really awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
that's Brian Ball giving you the thumbs up on that. So, John, great having you with you. You're welcome to stick with us for the rest of the show. You might want to hear what Harry has to say. And so please stick with us. Go ahead and mute yourself if you would, and we are going to move along. Thanks again, John.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right. Now we're going to go to the Netherlands and talk with a gentleman who I've been trying to get on the show for a very long time. Very excited to have him on. I don't think there is a better guru of Velomobiles around the world than this gentleman. His name is Harry Lieben. He is with Cinder Bikes, and I want to say hello. Hello, Harry.
Hello there.
Very glad to have you on. We're going to have a little slideshow. We have a few things pictures that we put together. And basically what we want to talk about, though, is this brand new Velomobile. So the Velomobile is called the Hilgo. And I'm wondering if you could, at the start here, tell us what led up to the Hilgo. Like what was in your mind, and how long had it been in your mind to put something together like this?
Well, actually, I'm not really somebody who,
did you start
engineer a Velomobile?
Okay.
That was not something that I did. I just I made a Mango.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point we had a customer, and he was not quite happy with his Mango, so he made some modifications, and it looked rather good what he had made. So we got into a discussion about it, and that was about 2 years ago, I think.
And then it's been in the works ever since then.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's go ahead and, Lars, if we can go to the pictures of the Hilgo, let's just take a look. And while we're looking at the Hilgo, maybe you can describe to us what you started out with a Mango idea, and you said, and made some changes. Can you tell us what changes you made? How is this different than the Mango? What changes did you make?
Well, the body, the front is well, it's actually based on the Milan idea. So with high bumps, so we could close the foot openings. So they are closed now. And well, for those who want to ride enclosed, so with a hood on, we had a large ventilation opening in the front, because that worked for me very well. I always ride with the hood, and ventilation is very important when you do that.
Right,
So
and especially in warmer weather, and some people have the Velomobiles in much warmer weather than where you ride, and I know that's a big issue, so ventilation would be important. And does that close off? Is there a way to close that off for when it's very cold?
We don't have a solution for that yet. Okay. So at the moment, of course, it's much colder, and I just put some tape over it.
All right, so that works for now. Let's go to the next, let's look at the slide show here. So the configuration of the Hilgo is a little bit different. How about accessing the wheels, for instance, or the internal workings for maintenance? How is that on the Hilgo?
Yes, I took very special care to make maintenance as easily as possible. It's well, the wheels are just like before on the Mango. They are one-sided, so you can change a tire very quickly and very easily. But also, I always thought that taking off the top was too awkward. It took a long time to take it off and put it on again. You had to take off all the stuff in between the kit. And put on you again. So then I thought, is there not a better way? So what I do now is to put on the kit and let it dry, and then I put on the top, and so you don't have to remove the kit and put it on new kit again. And also the bolts are now glued to the bottom flange. So now it takes about 20 minutes to take off and put on the top again.
So that's very important, I think, to people who want to be able to maintain. And all of the Velomobile riders, the Velonauts, as you call them, that I know, do a lot of work on their machines. Hopefully not on the road, but at some point that's just going to come up, so that's great. All right, we've got a slide up now, and this is something I wanted to discuss with you, Harry. The Hilgo sports a shifting mechanism that's quite different than the standard derailleur. And I was really interested for you to tell us the story of the development of this particular shifter. Tell us where the idea came from, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about what it actually is. How did this idea come about?
Well, this was actually the idea came from my old mentor, Jan de Vries. He has been developing in the past a sliding derailleur. So the chain would stay in one place, but the derailleur would slide to the side. And while this worked very well, and it was very difficult to produce. So when we made the Hilgo, he thought of, well, something else, but much easier to produce. And well, this is what came about.
Okay, interesting. And there's a little bit more room maybe to work with in a Velomobile as opposed to putting something like this on any kind of bicycle. Is that fair to say?
It's because well, we don't have, as usual, you have a direct drive to the rear wheel, but we have a mid drive. And this gives some. The cassette is now at a place where there's not so much movement in the body, so it doesn't shake about so much. Many contemporary derailleurs have a very strong spring in them to so that the chain stays on the derailleur, stays on the cassette. But we don't need a very strong spring in our chain tensioner because of well, the central position in the body of the Hilgo.
And folks, so we have these slides here. It's not easy to show videos too well on our show, so we usually don't do that. But if you check out the link that I'm going to give you for Harry, you're going to see a video that Harry made of this this sliding derailleur in action. It's kind of fun to watch. So a little bit of music on there too. So very interesting development, and I hope that works out well for you. It's quite innovation as far as I can see. Harry, do you think that this can be retrofitted onto current Velomobiles?
Not really, because most Velomobiles do not use an intermediate drive, and to have it on directly to the rear wheel, where there's a lot of well, vibration from the road, it gets much more difficult, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this, instead of being retrofitted, maybe if this works out well, you may start seeing this on newer Velomobiles, I guess, is what you might expect, huh?
Yeah, what is possible that we will see more Velomobiles in the future with a mid-drive because of this. Who knows?
Absolutely. All right, so let's go back. Yeah, you can show the last couple shots here. I think it shows the front.
Yeah, you can see that a chain tensioner has a very long cage. So this made it also possible for us to use a mountain bike cassette from 11 to 40 teeth, and with two chain wheels in the front, and still keep the chain tensions in all the gears. I think this is unique.
I think it is. That's amazing. All right, back to the Hilgo itself. Maybe Trey. Yeah, thank you, Trey. Back up a little bit. Just get us a nice shot. There we go. As we finish up here. So I know I've seen the Hilgo is listed on the Center website. Could you tell us what the availability timeline looks like? Now, is it available yet? And if not, can you tell us when you think you will start in production and sending these out?
Yes, well, actually, we have started production. We have now 3 bodies that came out of molds, and well, we are basically now very busy with producing all the parts in series. And the first 10 Hilgos have been ordered. Okay.
So you anticipate the first 3 maybe will be out in a matter of a few weeks, kind of thing?
Well, I think it will be maybe something like 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. That's when it'll get started. So good to know. And for those that are more interested in jumping on that list, they can go to the Center website, and we'll have that linked as well in the description. Can you give us an idea of the bare bones cost from Center Bikes of a Hilgo?
I think it's 7,700 euros.
Okay.
So okay. I don't know what this is in dollars. It's including VAT.
Okay. All right. Yep. People will look that up. That's not an issue at all. And that's all the questions I have, Harry. But I did get one from Gary Suplik. Sent me an email earlier this week and said, "Hi, Gary. I own a Mango Velomobile from Center. On your December 10th broadcast, is there any way you can touch on flag mounts for Velomobiles? How about an LED flagpole to illuminate the Velo at night? I'm curious about the best way to mount them and the types of power sources available. I used purple sky flags on my trike, but the Velo is different. Thanks a lot." And that was Gary in Fremont, California. Would you have an idea about how you could generally mount a flagpole and LED lights on that flagpole, I guess, Harry?
Well, you would have to drill a hole through the top. But there is actually an interesting development from Flevobike, and which produces the Orca. They have produced a fin that has white light to the front, red light to the rear, and also orange lights to the side. So you can also have turning lights inside. I have ordered one myself to see what it's all about.
Okay, so we can keep an eye on what you report on that. And of course, folks, one of our earliest Velomobile shows, we had Doug on with his. Doug, what was that? Was that Mango?
That was a Mango. In fact, it has all those lights on it.
Yeah.
So you might want to revisit our Velomobile show. He's got lights going every which direction, signals, and lights up like a Christmas tree. So I don't want to belabor that right now, but it's been done. And as far as the flag goes, Harry told you about drilling that hole and getting that mounted. So before we let Harry go, I wanted to ask the panelists. We don't have a whole lot of time, but any questions for Harry from the panelists?
Yeah, are the bodies being made there by you guys in the Netherlands, or is it being farmed out? I'm sorry if I missed that.
Yeah, we're making them completely ourselves, just like we did the Mango. The bodies are produced in Stadskanaal, where I work.
Okay.
So in the Netherlands.
Thank you, Brian. Good question. Anybody else?
Just wondering what the weight will be of the finished product of the Hilgo.
Yeah, it will be around 30 kilos. It comes in glass fiber.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you,
John. That was John Williams on that question. Very good. All right, folks. I think at this point we're going to let Harry go. Harry, thank you so much for coming on. I know that's not easy for you, and you did a great job. Not a native English speaker, you just did a wonderful job answering the questions, and very kind of you to be with us. You're welcome back anytime. And again, folks, I will have all the information about Cinner Bikes and Harry in the description below of the video here. So thank you very much, Harry.
Thank you for having me on the show, Gary.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Folks, we're going to move along now to the contest that I promised you earlier. So I hope you've all been paying attention. I'm going to ask 4 questions here. And the answers to these questions need to be emailed to me at Laidback Bike Report at gmail.com. Laidback Bike Report at gmail.com. Could somebody please put that into the chat for me, please? Laidback Bike Report at gmail.com. So that's where you need to send that. I'll be looking that up here after the news and sports report to see if we come up with a winner. Here are the 4 questions, and the winner, by the way, will receive either a Laidback Bike Report hat, one of our baseball hats, or we also have Anna Mitchell's Fat Chick Gone AWOL books. If you're here in the U.S., probably Canada too. But if it's someplace I have to mail a book or a hat, probably going to have to give you the electronic version of the Fat Chick Gone AWOL book, because I think it's probably prohibitive to mail that elsewhere. But here are the 4 questions, guys. Listen up. In what city will Recumbent Cycle-Con be held in 2018? What city will Recumbent Cycle-Con be held in 2018? That's the first question. Second question. What is printed in bold on the side of Doug's Velomobile? We kind of had that come up, didn't we, already?
Yeah.
What is printed in bold on the side of Doug's Velomobile? Question number 3. In what city did John Williams' Velomobile crash occur? What city did John Williams crash his Questy into a car? And the last question, number 4. What is the name of the new Velomobile from Cinner? That's we just found that out talking to Harry. What is the name of that Velomobile we were talking about? The new one from Cinner. 4 questions, guys. Laidback Bike Report at gmail.com. Go ahead and send your answers to me there. I'll be looking those up in a few minutes, and we'll see if we have a winner. And okay, let's move along to Bryan, who's been waiting patiently. I hope you guys are enjoying the show up to now, and you've been doing a great job on the live chat. At this point, Bryan, I'm going to throw it over to you, and if you could give us a little update on the news. Bryan.
Hey, I think the biggest thing in the news now, a lot of it is everybody's got sales going on, so that's cool. The first one I'm going to cover, and I think this is the first slide we got up here. I'm on another window looking at my notes, so I'm hoping it's the right one. The Trident clearance sale. They're selling off Stowaway 2 models. Stowaway 2 is a great trike. It's a very good value trike, but they're updating it for next year. So they're blowing out the ones they got left. So really good prices on those if you want to go over to tridenttrikes.com. The new one's going to be a bit different with 10-speed and a few small changes to the frame. But if you want one of the really still excellent values on the old ones, you can get great deals on it. What's the next slide I got up here? Oh, this is not a sale, but this is an exciting thing. There's a sale related to it, though. The new Catrite 700 is available now. You can go right to your dealers and order it. They've started building on them. Mine is actually going to be here on Wednesday, so I know that they are actually shipping. Big changes to this one. It has a 12 millimeter through axle in the back and that cool zip rear wheel and carbon fiber cranks. The price did go up. It's $39.50. There's also a different shaped seat, which I think is great. It is still worth, I think, in that sort of high performance trike range. Yes, the price did go up quite significantly, but it's still a good value in that range, and it's got the components to match. So there's not much to complain about there. The next one we have is Bachetta. You only have 2 days left of their 12 days of Christmas sale. They're doing 20% off all parts and accessories, and every day they're having a cool like bike of the day thing. They're selling off some demos and some new old stock and things like that. Very much worth visiting. I'm sure that Gary will put the link down below, but it's bachettabikes.com/shop, and use 12 days at checkout to get the stuff on that. And also, I kind of skipped over it. If you can go back to the Catrike one for 1 second, I'm sorry. They also have, every year they have cool exclusive colors around wintertime. This year is no different. They have 4 really cool colors. One of them is this really awesome blue, which is what color my 700 is going to be coming in. And you get $100 off if you order one of those cool colors. And that's across the whole model line, not just the 700. Any Catrike you order right now, you get $100 off if you pick one of those cool colors. So that's about it. It's just Christmas sale time in the recumbent world. It happens every year, and we always love it when they do.
All right, Bryan. And of course, the biggest news of all, which I think we just made at the top of the show.
Yeah.
The move to Nashville.
I should have opened with breaking news.
Yeah.
I missed my one chance in life to do that, and I didn't do it.
You don't know that that's your one chance in life. I may give you another chance. We'll see what happens. It could be something else. It doesn't happen that often in the recumbent world.
Hey, it's going to be fun to go to Nashville.
It sure will be.
I'm
really looking forward to that. And it's not so far for us here, so it should be great. Thank you, Bryan. Appreciate that. Let's move along now to our buddy in Sayre, Pennsylvania. You want to unmute yourself there, Den?
Yeah, I sure will.
Oh boy, I'm hearing that crazy sound. Talk to me again.
Oh man. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, not great. But go ahead and get started here. I'll interrupt you if it gets bad.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Here's Denny Voorhees and the Sports Report.
Okay, the first weekend of November is the World Time Trial Championship. It's an event sponsored by the people who bring in the race across America, and it has become the final and possibly the most important event of the ultra cycling season. It's a final opportunity to secure a high placing at all the UMCA Challenge events and a high finish for the overall points race. Cyclists from all over the world were entered in the competitions this year. 19 countries and over 180 riders competed in 3 different time categories. The 6, 12, and 24-hour races were run concurrently in the same course in Borrego Springs, California. The 18-mile course is relatively flat, but almost always hot and windy. In the final 2 hours of the race, the 4-mile course is open to allow for fine-tuning and managing the maximum overall distance. This year, the second overall 24-hour rider was Jason Perez of Brentwood, California. Jason rode his cat trike to finish just 4 miles behind overall winner with an amazing 500. Jason finished with 510 miles behind the 514 miles that actually won the race. The races went well, but about a dehydration and overheating forced him off his bike for almost 20 minutes, possibly costing him the win. Other finishers in the men's 24-hour recumbent race were Michael Hamonic of France with 365 miles, Dan Fallon of Prescott, Arizona with 252 miles, John Harthoon of Watkins, Iowa with 216 miles, and Ian Hoffman of Richland, Washington with 198 miles, just a little shy of 200 there, Ian. The two-person recumbent team, Team Sloth, posted 276.9 miles. The hotly contested 12-hour race, Rich Gudich of Las Vegas, Nevada, posted the 7th place overall among the solo racers with 243 miles. Dan Rocco of Bradenton, Florida was 216 miles, and he was good for 13th overall in the solo race. Alan Johnson of Phoenix, Arizona hung in for 144 miles. The 6-hour race, John Brockler of Apache Junction, Arizona, was the 6th solo rider across the finish line with 122 miles. And here's what John had to say about the race. Here's my 6-hour bike. Tom Ollinger and I designed it and I built it. Chromoly frame and carbon fiber seating, streamlining. The bike performed flawlessly. The weight is 37 pounds down from 39, and I went to dry tubes and a lighter rear wheel.
Hey, Denny, could I stop you for a second? It's still sounding like not very great. If you wouldn't mind, let me just finish this up for you. If you go into the to that little gear at the top of the screen there and change your microphone to your camera, maybe that might help. But let me take it from here, okay?
Okay.
Folks, okay, so let's talk about Larry Lem of Redondo Beach, California. He logged 109 miles. Daytime conditions were really fast this year, favoring the 12 and 6-hour riders with lighter winds than last year. Now, there were no women on the recumbents this year, sort of surprising considering the number of women participating in the 3 events. As Denny says, come on, ladies, I know you're out there. This is a good opportunity to compete with some of the best ultra cyclists in the world. Put it on your calendar for next year. So if you have an event that you think deserves a mention on the Laidback Bike Report, please drop us a line on our Facebook page or directly to the Laidback Bike Report email. You can do that same email I just told you guys about at the contest, laidbackbikereport@gmail.com. And until next time, as Denny always says, stay on the bike, keep moving forward. And it is back to me now. So sorry, Den.
No, it's okay, Gary. Is this any better now?
Yeah, now it's perfect. So
yeah,
okay, folks, we're going to start that all over again. No, I tried that.
That's fine.
Well, thanks, Denny. I'm sorry. It was great report.
No, it's okay.
All
right.
Right.
Nasty.
No problem. You were reported in as some sort of Borg by some of the viewers. I'm not sure what's going to happen to you after this. But let's move along, shall we? I want to talk one more time about the wonderful sponsors that we have for this show. First, we have TerraCycle. Check out their amazing idlers and wind-wrapped fairings. And Trailside.bike. If you find yourself in Florida near the Withlacoochee Trail, stop in and see Andrew and his crew. Okay, folks, let's get towards the end here. We had promised, if you want to come back to me, Lars, we had promised last month that we would announce the winners of the TerraCycle photo contest. We're going to have to postpone that. Pat had some urgent family matters to attend to and wasn't able to get the pictures judged. So I think we're just going to extend it. We'll talk more about it in January. But if you have pictures that you've taken of your bikes, trikes, any kind of recumbent with any TerraCycle products on it, feel free to enter them. You can send them to either TerraCycle or just send them to me. Again, you can send it to our email or on our Facebook page, laidbackbikereport@gmail.com. Send us a picture. We will get those judged and probably have them judged for next month. We'll see how that goes. But thanks for thinking of us on that. And yeah, now it's time for our contest. We're going to see about the winner. Let me see here. I just got another one in. Yep. That is the correct answer exactly. I had one almost winner, but we have Bill Samble, who has sent me an email. And so let me back up here. I'm going to give you the questions and the answers here. The first question, in what city will Recumbent Cycle-Con be held in 2018? The correct answer, of course, Nashville, Tennessee. The second question, what is printed in bold on the side of Doug's Velomobile? It says Dallas Cyclist. That's right. The third question, in what city did John Williams' Velomobile crash occur? That was in London, England. And what is the name of that Velomobile we were talking to Harry Lieben about? Well, that's the Hilgo. So Bill Samble is the winner. Congratulations, Bill. I will email you back and we'll get with you about getting your prizes to you. Thanks to everyone that entered the contest today. We appreciate that. And now let me get back down to my script and let's close this sucker out. All right, so let's go to that closing slide, guys. I want to talk to you. I've been mentioning this all show long. Everything that we talk about, folks, and where to find the people that are our guests on the show and where they send you, those are all links that I've told you we'll put in the description. So that is a picture of what the description below our video looks like on YouTube. First, you're going to see a clickable table of contents for those of you who find our show to be excessively long, including most of my panelists. You can go to any particular section. I will put that in there tonight. It'll take me a little while to go through the video and put those in, but I will. And then click on any particular section and jump right to it so you can watch the show in sections or just see the parts that you like. So I hope that is something that you guys will make use of. And then, yes, those links. And then below the table of contents, I will list all of those links so that you can just click on them and go directly to the website of Bentrider or Center Bikes or Dallas Cyclist, whatever happens to be we mentioned, it will all be down there. So please take advantage of that. We work hard to make it as easy as possible for you. All right, what's coming up on the next Laidback Bike Report? I've been working hard to get some interesting things, and I've got a bunch of stuff lined up in the next few months. First of all, can we get that next slide? There we go. So the first one, we're going to have two guests on our January show. And the first one is a gentleman who's been on before. It's the bicycle man, Peter Stull. We have interviewed him before, and in that interview, we briefly went through some of his museum pieces of recumbent bikes that he has hanging up. We're going to start a short series of segments with Pete on these and go into more detail. We're going to probably take 3 or 4 of his interesting older bikes. We're going to get some close-up views of the components and the configurations of these, and he'll talk to us about each one of those and their history. So I hope you'll like that part. And another gentleman that we're going to have on, really interesting guy that I just got introduced to online, Randy Ridings. Randy has put together, as you see there, a recumbent amphibious trike. Actually, I think it's a quad. I put trike, but I think it's a quad. And yes, this thing, he has had it on the Missouri River and ridden on the Katy Trail. I think he went down the river and up the Katy Trail on an extended tour. A really interesting guy, making some really interesting, having some really interesting projects that I think you guys will be fascinated as I am to see. So please join us in January. I'll give you that date. I think it's the 4th, but I'll give you that date, of course, on the website and everywhere else as it gets a little closer. So that's what we've got coming up on the next Laidback Bike Report. So at this point, I just want to thank, first of all, Bryan Ball and Bentrider for their promotional support as always. Thank you, Bryan. You do a great job helping us out on the show and off the show. Thanks so much.
Always welcome.
Thank you, sir. And then we're not going to go to each of our panelists. We got a bunch of them on there, but I want to thank all of our panelists today for helping me out, doing such a great job. Of course, Lars and Trey, especially doing the directing and the slideshow. And then the other panelists on here backing them up in case anything happened. We tried to make this show as bulletproof as possible. And at least we're still here. So something's working, I guess. And the guests that are still with us that I see on the film strip below, Harry Lieben and John Williams, and our panelist, Doug, who all appeared as guests on the show. Thank you very much, guys. We appreciate that. And I want to thank all of you folks for sticking with us through the show and watching. We sure appreciate you watching us every month and supporting us on all the social media. We just love having you and appreciate you joining us on the chat and engaging. It's what makes the show special, I think. So thanks to all of you as well. Okay, so let's finish up with how you can support us. I would love if you would, if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Again, if you look down the lower right-hand corner, you should see a little red subscribe button. Click it. Go to the YouTube channel, click the subscribe button. There's a little bell you might see next to that. That is a notification bell. Click it, and it will send you a notification whenever we go live or produce a video so that you'll know right away that we've done so and can join us. So I'd appreciate it if you could do that for us. And then the Laidback Bike Report Facebook page is there. We love if you would visit that. I try to keep everything up to date on that. So like that page and you'll get notifications also there. And our website. If you click that little white, I think it's a white eye in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to go right there to that picture that you see. And on our website, you can just about find anything you need about the Laidback Bike Report, including our past shows. We have bonus material, some of the pictures, all the pictures that we use in the show and some that may not have made it will be there. You can also find out more about our panelists I have in the About section. So please go ahead and hit that website, see what you can find there. And while you're there, as you can see in that last little thing, I hope you'll buy a hat. The hat is something that we use to help raise a little bit of money for the show, and I think it's sporty. There's our buddy Larry Varney, who is out doing the Santa Claus thing right now, I think, and he'll, I'm sure, be back with us next month. But buy a hat while you're there if you would. That would help us out as well. So all of that is available at laidbackbikereport.com. So until our next webcast, folks, from all of us at the Laidback Bike Report, so long, Bent Riders.